this last decade as well, you seem to have been more proactive in your songwriting, the two of you, than probably ever before. Is that right, or am I just sort of getting the view slightly skew-with?
No, but I think that the truth is, Ben, that when we wrote "You Give Love a Bad Name" in 1986, you were 25 years old, and that's what the palette was. That's what you had to write about. That's where we grew up and the life we were living. And when you look back on that 23 years later, I would hope to God that you had something else to write about, or else you're doing some reality shows and getting Botox injections somewhere. You know what I mean? On some nostalgia tour.
Although, from time to time, I would imagine that would be kind of cool, though, just to be almost like a travelling jukebox and just to play those 5-6 songs again.
No thanks.
No?
No thanks.
Okay.
No thanks.
The new album, The Circle, is causing huge debate among the fans. I've been onto the Bon Jovi fan sites and the UK fan forums. I asked for a fair few questions, and we'll come to those fan questions a little later. A lot of people sort of drawing their own conclusions as to what The Circle is about, but you're here in my very swanky CTU-style studio. They're hanging on your every word, these fans, right now. So the reason behind the title, please, John.
Actually, it wasn't my original thought, and so I give credit where credit is due. As a young lady that I know brought up the name with no meaning behind it, and I said, I really get it. I understand what this means. And to me, it stands for a lot. It's the circle is never ending. And in this organization, the circle is very difficult to get in and even more difficult to get out of. And so we shot an album cover from above of a huddle, of the four of us in a huddle. And that's really what it signifies. There's no song called The Circle on the record, but this circle remains unbroken. And after all these years, it's stronger than ever. So that's what it means. That's what it stands for. And I hope the cover is as good as I think it's meant to be. Because I have to tell you, I've made some of the worst album covers of all time. I'm not very proud of that. It's, Slippery When Wet, one of the biggest selling
Hold on, I'm not having a
records.
word said against Slippery When Wet, okay?
You know what that album cover is? It's a black, hefty garbage bag with my fingers squirting water and writing Slippery When Wet, because if I didn't turn that album cover in the next morning, they were going to delay the release of the record, and You Give Love a Bad Name was already on the radio. The original album cover was a girl cropped from her chin down to her waist with a T-shirt on that said "Slippery When Wet," and this hot pink on that little air freshener in your room here was the border of the album cover. And this is in a time before fax machines and computers, and they sent us this album cover on a Xerox, and the Xerox was blue. So it was bad enough that the picture was cropped poorly, but we had no idea that the art director had designed the cover based on the fingernail polish this girl had on, and he made our album cover hot pink. So thank God the record company said this will be career suicide. They burned 500,000 album covers. I took a black hefty garbage bag and around midnight squirted it with water and wrote Slippery When Wet, and that was the cover. So subsequently, the New Jersey record cover is awful. Keep the Faith is pretty good, but most of our album covers are just shite.
So, what we'll do with the next album after The Circle is we'll do a competition where the fans can design their own...
We should just forget the fans, they're too smart. We should go to like 5-year-olds with boxes of crayons.
I have a 1-year-old son.
Perfect.
He's just started with the crayons, which is great because I just had the house decorated.
Perfect.
Brilliant. So we'll do that. I'd like to play a track from the album, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on a song called When We Were Beautiful, because it's quite a unique track from Bon Jovi, I think, for many, many reasons, and much like the current vibe in America, and we're talking about this, it is desperately optimistic, I think.
Yeah, it is one of the bookends for the record. Imagine that we wrote this one about a year ago, and the idea behind it was as I witnessed, like I say, this economic crash and correction, if you will, bubble bursting. America living in the McMansion and more and bigger and better and bonus, and the country was really being driven in an artificial way. So anyhow, the world starts to change, and we write this song, and the first line of it is, "The world is cracked, the sky is torn, I'm hanging in and you're holding on." And the idea is getting back to a simpler time when there was a reason why you got out of bed, and it wasn't just motivated by money and reality TV and mortgages up to your elbows, and just there was such a yuck feeling. So anyhow, we wrote the song, approached it very, very differently in the studio. we were thinking how anthemic it could be in that stadium setting, but wrote it on 2 acoustic guitars. So this was one bookend. And like I said, we couldn't have written Born to Follow as the next song, because the world had to fall down, get up, wipe itself off, and then pick itself up by the bootstraps. So if you imagine that Beautiful was at one end of the spectrum and Follow was at the other end, that's how you understand what the record's about.
Lots of Bon Jovi stuff happening. There is a book, there is the documentary, this album as well, all nicely timed for the 25th anniversary. Have you enjoyed wallowing in nostalgia?
Well, it's funny that you say that. People will bring this up, and I do feel pretty proud when they say it's 25 years since the first record, and here you are making contemporary records that are hopefully charting very high, etc. But one thing we did with the documentary is that we were sure going into it that it wasn't going to be nostalgic, nor was it going to be a concert film. Because if you want nostalgia, you go on YouTube and you look at an old video. If you want a concert film, just buy a ticket and come and see it, because chances are we'll be around again next year. So we approached the film from the perspective that, you always wanted to see inside the circle. You want to see inside. You want to see back of the backstage. You want to be in the hotel room and witness what those other 22 hours were like. So we shot a very unique film. Had to finance it ourselves because no one else believed in it.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, we did it, and then it was great because Phil Griffin, who lives here in London, he's best known for videos like the Amy Winehouse stuff. So we found him by accident, and he shot the Whole Lot of Leaving going on video. Subsequently, he started taking photographs, and he was a very good photographer and a better conversationalist. So we said, why don't you do this film with us? And so he'd interview me and ask questions that people wouldn't generally ask, because he would see what you were going through the other 22 hours of the day. Anyhow, we put the film together, liked what we saw, warts and all. There's a lot of bumps and bruises throughout the project, and sold it to American TV, and now we've decided to release it. Because again, I have to reiterate, there wasn't going to be a studio record this year. There was just going to be the film and the picture book.
But isn't it nice, though, when things happen organically,
Yeah.
when they're not actually planned?
Amazing.
You didn't have a meeting with a record company where they had the forecast for 18 months, 2 years.
It's amazing. Once in a while a plan comes together. Trust me, it looks like we're smart, but we're not.
We were talking about nostalgia. I'd like to take you back to Slippery When Wet, because obviously, when we were the old radio station, we tended to play those 2-3 songs from Slippery When Wet. Now we're Absolute Radio. We can play whatever the hell we like from the back catalogue, which is great. But that album is still played worldwide on radio, morning, noon and night. What do you remember from those sessions? Was it, as I've read, make or break time for Bon Jovi?
Well, yeah, the era was different. The good news is that when they say make or break, that was our third album. And the first two had done well enough. We were a gold record band in America, not a platinum record band yet. But they did give you those 3 albums to establish yourself. It wasn't like it is today where, you're like on Idol or one of those kind of shows, and then they expect you to be a superstar overnight. We were able to become a band and break regionally and go and work the clubs and then the theaters and then their opening act, etc.